You're listening to the Canned Air Podcast, your sidekick in the quest for knowledge, power, and entertainment. So strap yourselves in and prepare for victory!
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Canned Air, your tribute to comics and pop culture. I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
And we've got a special episode for you this week. Very excited about this one. Very Tigtone themed episode. And for those of you who might not know what Tigtone is, it's a show on Adult Swim, currently in its second season, which you can check out at midnight on Sundays. And it has its season finale coming October 11th at midnight. So again, set those DVRs. But we welcome the voice actors from the show. And how would you describe this show? Pretty much it's some of the most beautiful animation I've ever seen. I love it. It's very
animated
original.
Paintings almost.
It's something else. But it's about a hero and a sidekick in the fantasy realm looking for quests, essentially, right? So we
that's right.
Yeah. So we get to welcome the voice actors this week. First, let me introduce, if you've ever played a video game or watched any kind of cartoon, you've heard her voice for sure. She portrayed Coco Bandicoot in the Crash Bandicoot series for the past 6 years. She's also the voice of Maureen and Philip in F is for Family, but probably best known for being the voice of Jimmy Neutron, and in Tigtone she is the voice of Helpy, the seemingly expendable sidekick. We welcome Debi Derryberry to the show. Debbie, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Jeremy and Jack. It's so exciting to be here. I love talking to other Tigtone fans. Yay!
Such a fun show, and I have to say, it's even just fun saying your name. It's kind of a tongue twister, Debi Derryberry.
Yeah.
Say it 5 times fast.
It's a whole adventure.
It really
right?
is.
Like, I had no choice but to go into animation, right?
You seriously, yeah.
I think
your name would do
her
good
name
as
is the
a
opposite of a tongue twister.
Yeah.
I think her name is like you can't mess it up. It's the opposite of a tongue twister. It just makes your tongue behave perfectly. You know, Debi Derryberry. You're like,
I guess I.
And nobody ever just calls me Debbie. They never just say Debbie. It's always Debi Derryberry.
Because it's so fun to say. It needs to be a Ben and Jerry's flavor or something like that. That would be.
You know, you're not the first person that suggested that.
Damn
and
it.
I'm all for it. Ben, Jerry, if you're listening, let's get on the stick.
There it is.
Debi Derryberry ice cream.
I'd eat it. I'd try it for sure. And then our next guest has been all over the world and recorded all kinds of music with his many bands, some of which include Free Salamander Exhibit, Fawn Fables, Idiot Flesh, Sleepy Time Gorilla Museum, just to name a few. And is also the voice of our hero, Tigtone. We welcome Nils Frykdahl to the show. Nils, thank you so much for being here.
howdy. All right, great to be here and there.
We are going to have some fun today. We're going to be talking with both Debi and Nils a little bit about their careers, and then talking with them both about just about Tigtone in general, not just season 2, just about the show in general. But before we do that, don't forget to find us on Twitter at CannedAirPod and Instagram at canned_air. If you like what we're doing, want to show some support, patreon.com/CannedAirPod. I'm not going to get into the nitty gritty. You pay us a little bit of money, you get a lot of shit in return for it. So that's how that works right there. And if any of our listeners are in need of professional representation of any kind, if you're an actor, podcaster, whatever it may be, check out Steve Joyner at 816-605-4561. Get that representation you need. Jack, what am I forgetting?
Tuesday nights on our Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube page at 9 p.m. Eastern. Come over and play the Canned Air Game Show, maybe win some prizes. You can play along with us playing some Jackbox.
There it is. It's been a lot of fun, hasn't it? All right, let's not hesitate any longer. Let's just get right to this. Again, I cannot wait to talk with you both on Tigtone, as it's just been so much fun to watch. I never tire of seeing the many ways Helpy can either be decapitated or used as a weapon or, something like that. But before we delve into that, I kind of want to talk with each of you just a little bit about each of your careers. And I guess I'll start with you, Debi. In doing this research, it was so cool to not only find, all the different characters you provide the voice for, but I was beside myself to learn that your first role was a character named Skeeter in Hey Vern, It's Ernest, the TV series. Yes. And that she was an actress, did some stunt work, and even swam with the whale in the movie Free Willy. I mean, both of these things were huge when I was a child. Loved them both. It was so exciting to find that out. So I'm just very curious where your start into the entertainment business begins.
Well, I was actually a pre-med at UCLA, and I thought I'm going to be a doctor, but I always sang country music with my guitar. I was busking down in Westwood and writing songs, and so I said, I don't want to go to medical school, and one of my boyfriends said, move to Nashville, so I did, and got an agent there and waited tables like a good singer, but the only session work I got was singing jingles, but as a kid, I never got hired to sing as a grown-up. And then the agent said, do you want to, do some stand-in work? And I said, sure. But before that, I had done a play at Tennessee Rep called To Kill a Mockingbird. I played Scout when I was in my 20s. I played the 12-year-old Scout. And someone saw me in it and said, actually, Buster Cherry of Cardin Cherry, who does all of Jim Varney's stuff, who did all of Jim Varney's stuff. And they said, we're just going to put you in the series. You're going to play a boy clown. And I said, okay. And then they put makeup and a clown costume on me, and I played Skeeter, the 12-year-old boy clown, on camera, got in a SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, got to quit waiting tables, and moved back to L.A. Oh, but before that, my agent had set me on set to a Jim Varney of, what's it called? Ernest Goes to Camp. And I stood in for the boys. If you know what a stand-in is, it's someone that's the same size as the principal actor, but you sit in the background, and when they're setting lights, they call you in. And I was like, okay, that's, $70 a day is better than what I'm waiting tables making. So one of the moms of the boys said, you have a cool voice. Why don't you do voiceover? And I said, what in the heck is that? I didn't even know. And she's like, well, you can do cartoon voices. And I'm thinking, isn't Fred Flintstone himself? Anyway, long story short, sent my demos to L.A. of my jingles, and they said, nice demos, you need to live in L.A. So I moved back to L.A. and signed with an agent and started booking in 2 weeks after I moved back, and it was great. And then, that's how I got started. Real easy roadmap to guide anyone. I have just the secret.
Right.
It's like that for everybody.
It's every path is so interesting, and this is just a great example. You just put your time in and dedication, and you're going to get to where you need to be. And that's where it seems you found yourself for sure.
And I still do music. I still sing, and I have a 3-part harmony country band, and I've done 7 years of preschool music. I toured all over the country. But now I just do it for fun and do cartoons and stuff.
I did not know that. I didn't know you were such a seasoned musician. I had read that you definitely had been doing stuff with children's music, but I didn't realize about the country band. That's really cool. What are you guys called?
Honey Pig.
Very intrigued. I can't wait.
We have an Instagram, in Honey Pig Music on Instagram, but it's never been making a living. Although the kids' music, I did have a lot of top 10 hits. I had a #1 hit actually on XM Sirius. My song "Baby Banana" went to #1 on the chart.
Wow!
So that was fun when my kid was little, going, "Mommy, you're on the radio." That's fun.
Did something that the children can be like, oh, so freaking cool. Well, I guess you were doing cartoons though, so I mean, What am I talking about?
No, he didn't know anything about that. To him it was no big deal. All of my friends were like, yeah, he does Winnie the Pooh, and my kid was like, whatever, SpongeBob, whatever, Mickey Mouse, whatever. He didn't care.
Right.
He just put it all. It wasn't a big deal for him, but to see my songs on the radio, for some reason, that was impressive for him.
I'd be impressed. My mom had a song on the radio. Man, I'd never stop telling her about it. But very cool. So, anybody who looks at your IMDb or even goes to your webpage and sees the picture of you, with all your characters around you, you've lent your voice to so many characters. And at least I would imagine being in the voiceover world, having that many characters under your belt, and every time you take on a new character, it might be a little challenging. Like, how am I going to flesh this one out without it sounding like something I've done? Do you ever find that to be a challenge?
Well, once in a while, I'll recycle some characters, but usually the writers have these pictures of the characters, and they make it kind of easy for me to layer the pieces I need to layer to get the character out. Like if there's a little girl, then they're like, okay, it's a little girl, but guess what? She's from the South. Okay, right. She can't say her ahs, so she's from the South and she can't say her ahs. Okay. So you just do these little layerings depending on their age and their accent, and you find your character and their personality. So for the series characters, they become a real thing, like Philip on F is for Family, or Helpy, or Jimmy Neutron, or Maureen, or Bridget in F is for Family. They're like independent, standalone characters. And then the others I just kind of bastardize, and I make them as I go.
Very cool. And you kind of answered my next question. I was going to ask what your technique was for characters, but you kind of just explained that, just the different layering and hammering it out as you go.
Oh, and theft.
And I'm sorry? Theft? Theft?
Theft, yeah. I steal a lot. But then when it comes out of my mouth, it doesn't really sound like what I'm trying to imitate because I'm not an impressionist. But in my head, I'm thinking that. So, thank you for whoever came up with it. I'm just doing my version of it. So, and I teach a lot, so I've kind of streamlined a lot of these skills so I can help other people with creating their characters and kind of give some hard and fast rules to it. Although there are none, but if you had to break it down, I can help you break it down.
You have a book out, I believe, Voiceover 101. I want to read it so bad. I love hearing about the world of voiceover. It's so intriguing. I mean, it's acting, but I think it would almost be harder. You don't have your body language to help accentuate your point.
Well, it's a different skill set. On-camera actors have their skill set, and voiceover actors have their skill set. It's all acting. It's just different things you need to do with it. And the book, Voiceover 101, How to Succeed as a Voice Actor, I just had so much to say, and I thought, just shut up and write it down, for gosh sake. So I did.
I will definitely be looking at that book. I love to always learn more about anything that deals with microphones, that's for sure. But
and it's available on Amazon or through my website. Thanks for asking.
Hey, I was going to have links to it no matter what, so... Very cool, though. I will be checking that out. But I want to turn attention over to Nils for a little while now and just kind of talk about where your journey into music begins. Because, again, you've been in so many different bands. I'm just very intrigued. Where does your music journey start?
Really focusing on live music initially, and the show and the sort of initially very spectacle-oriented shows and very a lot of sort of concept-oriented stuff where we would be touring, but we'd also be handing out informational tracts, distributing a lot of paper around the country. And so it's a strong sort of conceptual, theatrical element where we were just trying to keep people from quite understanding why we were there, so make them guess as to what our intentions were. And through that sort of theatrical element, I think, ended out having a lot of time on the microphone, on stage, talking to the audience. And so that, I think, opened the side door for me to also then step into some straight-up staged work. I've done a bunch of plays, and then through I think also the music and people just knowing about either the live shows, which often contain a lot of talking, or the just deciding that my sort of monster voices, and initially that was pretty much what I did in voice work. And I knew various people who were working on games or cartoons, and I would come in and just go blah blah blah, and that, which is fun. But I have to say, Tigtone is, as a character, is the most human character I've done. In a way, the most normal voice character I've done, which is kind of funny because he's such a he's such a psycho, but at least he's a human being. Whereas I was doing a lot of, trolls and then foreign French, Japanese, foreign accents. However badly, they're like, great, sounds great, keep going. So most of my voiceover stuff was sort of sneaking in through the side door and back out and back into the music world. But I've really enjoyed being part of this. Part of the Tigtone crew, and the strange grammar of the show really gets me. I just chuckle at these sentences that are like half a phrase too long or too short, and and then the fact that this sidekick character of Helpy showed up, I was just stunned, because I had myself a sidekick character named Helpy that was our sound person, and also would do an act on the Bed of Nails, and went out on the road. And when we got to the East Coast and it was starting to ice up, and like, Helpy, it's time to put on your shoes, and he didn't have any. I don't actually own any shoes, man. I was like, oh wow, okay, well, it's time to. And he was such a strange character that, and in real life, that and the name Helpy just came out of my mouth. Introducing him one night on stage, I introduced Paul Del Porto is his real name, and hello, Paul, if you're out there in the world. I don't know where you are now, but one night just introduced him as Helpy the Hamburger Bee, and somehow it just felt right. And then later that night, in the diner at 3 a.m., I drew a cartoon of Helpy the Hamburger Bee, eating a hamburger, a happy, robust little cartoon bee chomping down with his cheeks full. I thought, Helpy the Hamburger Bee. And this guy, the real guy, at one point he had long hair on one side and a full beard, and then was absolutely clean shaven on his skull and face on the other side, and would be shirtless and wear a tutu. So if we ever had any trouble, we would just stick Helpy on people, and people would just turn around and go the other way. So he would drink vinegar and eat toothpaste straight from the tube.
Oh wow!
But I hadn't seen him for a good 15 years or so at the time that. The Tigtone writer suggested, okay, where there's going to be you're going to have a sidekick, and the name will be Helpy, and I was just floored. So,
but this was meant to be.
I can imagine. Yeah,
it was. I had that feel. It was like that little finger in the small of the back, like, you're in the right. Just do it, man. This is good.
Yeah, that's so cool. And I, my next question was kind of going to be for the both of you as your first impressions of the character, but you kind of were already telling me, I guess. What you thought of Tigtone. I was watching some clips on YouTube from season 1 of you doing Tigtone tracks in the studio, and you just seem to fit that role so well. I mean, you are Tigtone, it seems like.
Right. I haven't really gone into this with Andrew and Ben, but when I did The Begun, way back, I don't know if you've seen the very first one. But yeah, I felt like this sort of just the abuse of grammar that's going on in the show. It so resonated with me, and I thought, I wonder if these guys, who came to a Sleepy Time gig out in Minneapolis, I believe, and said, hey, we're doing a cartoon, we want to do a voice, and I could just, I could tell there was some good times to be had there Andrew talks that way, more or less, it's hard. It's hard for him to stop punning,
Right.
It's just, he just can't. It's part of his basic makeup. So I knew there were some rich rewards to be had.
Sure.
And as soon as I saw the actual strip and cartoon, I was like, oh yeah. This is great. And I didn't even realize at that point it was just a script. I didn't know how cool and freaky the facial manipulation with the motion capture stuff was going to be. And the first one was much less elaborate, of course, in the production, but they already had that technique going, which is the still drawing stretching and contracting for facial expression.
Right.
It's just like, it was very, it made you feel a little bit nauseous right out the gate. I was like, oh man, this is going to be good. And now it's so over the top. Just seeing the episodes on Sunday night, just this squirreliness of Tigtone's facial expressions, everybody's, but he's just like, he's kind of wonderfully horrible.
When he screams, when the face pulls and you can see his teeth too, there's just something about it that is so funny. He could be silent and I would still laugh. Like just the look of it is hilarious,
Yeah.
Have you seen the Instagram filter that they've got, the Tigtone one, where you can make yourself Tigtone? Oh, it's great.
Yeah.
I came across it one day and sent it to Jeremy. He was like, "How the hell did you do that?"
That's right, I forgot. I think I know how we're going to market this episode now.
I've been thinking about it already.
Okay, so Debbie, first impressions of Helpy. When you first heard about this character, the 3-foot-high creature with purple hair that can lose limbs and regrow them, what was your first impression?
Well, it was, I'm not sure they knew what they wanted, but the description looked short and purple, and I was like, I'm all over short and purple, and it was kind of non-human. So what I did is I combined Speedy Alka-Seltzer with an old lady alien, and that kind of ended up sounding like this. And that was a casement right there. So that's where he was living, and then he was kind of crazy. And like Nils said, the writing of the script, it reminded me of like a Roald Dahl book, like a BFG, but Big Friendly Giant, where it's not written kind of, it's linear, but it jumps around and it doesn't finish a sentence, or things are said with an ly on them. It's just funny the way it was written. It was kind of preschool, but not. And then the whole nature of the show to me is sort of like Monty Python meets Game of Thrones, because it's absurd and it's epic. So when I auditioned at the agent's office, then they wanted me to do a callback at the agent's office, which is very rare that I go into the agent's office to do the callback. And that was a very long process, because they wanted to make sure that I could take Helpy through this huge range of emotions that he experiences every episode, because he loves Tigtone. He does anything for Tigtone, including letting him rip off his appendages, which is quite painful every episode. Yet he's like a puppy, too. Right. So he has this huge shift from different emotions every episode. And I had to find a voice that I could sustain and not lose my voice with, because putting texture on your voice as a voice artist can be quite dangerous. But I found a way to do it where it doesn't. I mean, I'm not going to talk like Helpy all day long, but I can do the 1 to 2 hours at a time that I need to do without damaging myself.
Sure.
He's just so silly. And like Nils said, the way they animate it when they were first explaining it to me, I didn't know what to think. Because when you look at it, it's sort of like South Park, where they're on popsicle sticks and, a cartoon on a popsicle stick walking across the screen. But then they move, and their heads don't turn, but their faces do. And Ben and Andrew lie in the chair with motion capture dots all over them and do the whole episode all again with their faces, using what Nils and I do in the studio.
Wow.
It's never been done before, this process. And so that's, I think, what Nils means by this. It's so original animation. You've never seen anything like it.
No.
I'm really just so excited to be a part of it, because wild and different and nutty, and it's not vulgar, but there's a lot of blood. So I would say it's not for young kids, but I would let kids watch it before I'd let them, watch something like Big Mouth, where it's just embarrassingly vulgar.
Yeah,
but this isn't. It's just a little bloody.
It's not vulgar, and even the violence, because I have 3 little girls, 11, 10, and almost 7, and the youngest one is freaked out by the violence, and she steps out of the room a little bit. But the older 2 love it, and it's like the violence it always pulls back from being actually violent. Even the eating the brains that happened on Tigtone Island, which is so horrible, but at the same time, this sort of goofiness that makes it, it's soft. It's always softened. It's always violent, but always the violence is softened by the sheer goofiness.
Sure.
But you know what makes it so funny is the way Nils does Tigtone, and what makes animation funny is where the scene is so absurd, but he comes out at it with such commitment and seriousness, and that he would not stray from that commitment, and that is humorous in itself. Knowing that Tigtone is all about this, and it's ridiculous. The subject matter is so ridiculously absurd, but he is set to do it and very straight-faced and serious. It's hilarious.
There's an absolute sincerity, Tigtone and Helpy are so sincere in their quest, their
Yeah.
When they have to go get soup, to get the angel broth or the soup to fulfill the quest, here is soup. It's just trite, but huge.
Right. The biggest mission they've ever been sent
absurdity. Yes.
I would love to spend a day just in the production of this show, because your sides would be hurting by the time you left, I'm sure. So we have the season finale coming up October 11th. What can we expect from the last episode of season 2?
More absurdity, more insanity. Hopefully a season 3.
Oh, there had better be a season 3. We got to see more of this.
Yeah, the final. I can't remember what happens with the final. As I see them, I'm like, oh yeah, this. Because they start and we start way back like last year sometime, and read these scripts, and then they work on them, and then they come out, and it's always a revelation when I see the actual episode. Although I know this next week the Princess Castle is coming up, and the girls
as
are
actors,
excited about that.
We don't get the script. We only get our lines, so we don't really know everything that happens.
Oh, wow.
We know some of what happened, but the
yeah.
full story, I don't know. Nils, do you get to know everything?
Well, I do. I usually get a full script, yeah. But then, when you do, I come down to LA,
or maybe
I do 2 or 3 of these in 2 or 3 days, and my head is spinning by the time I've done a couple of these in 2 or 3 days. I'm like, to put. Don't ask me to piece the plot back together after 2 or 3 of them.
We don't record together. I mean, Nils is there sometimes, and I'm there sometimes, but we never record with anybody else. So we're always talking to ourselves.
I see.
Yeah.
And it's only like my little scene, and I'll talk with Ben or Andrew, and they'll rewrite as we go. So sometimes I'll do the same scene with all different lines. I never know what's going to make it or not, or what they're going to cut or redo.
I see.
Yeah. A lot of improvisation on the part of the writing team during the recording process. And we sit there on the other side of the glass watching these discussions go on, and finally somebody comes in, okay, try this, and they've got their one. I'm like, okay. Yeah, so you have a lot of different versions of everything you hear in the final.
Nils, it'll be fun if we get to record together again.
Yeah, we did some at the beginning, and then, I think they decided, okay, it works. We can just cut them back and forth. They're sounding,
Yeah.
But
it's fun to be with Nils. But he's quite large, and I'm really small. So doesn't look that different in person when you see us, except I'm not purple.
Oh.
Right. Oh man, when I first recorded with Debbie in the room, that was the longer session because every time she'd open her mouth, I wouldn't be able to return the ball. It's just like, oh God. This voice, yeah, you really just tore me up. Now I accept that that's you. That's Helpy is just there, and it doesn't. I think I could do it. I could do it again if we.
You could.
We meet there.
It's so much fun, this relationship. It's they love each other so much. Yet, if one of the other ones dies, they'd be over it in a second. But they adore each other.
Yeah,
right.
I love how they finished Tigtone's Island this one last week, just enjoying themselves on the beach, watching the sunset. I was like, it's such a nice epilogue. Like, yeah, because usually the epilogue leads to some panic, and then the little bird chirps, and it's the end. And you're like,
right.
Okay. But that one is just so. It's just a little, like 3 seconds longer than it was supposed to be. The sunset. It's like, oh, they're really doing it. Yeah, nice.
Just to emphasize it a little bit more. This one's different.
And it's so clever, don't you think? No, it's just like the whole nothing thing. A sword that will cut nothing.
Yeah.
I mean, the play on words is absolutely. It's almost like a child because it's so simple yet so clever.
Right, so clever and so committed to it. Like, no, we are going to make a whole episode about the nothing, and just I love it. When Andrew told me he was going to L.A., to moving from his well set up life in Minneapolis, but he was going to go to L.A. and they're going to get the show, try to get it picked up. I was like, oh gosh, you guys, that's so. I don't know. Do you really? I think you've got it good.
You say long shot?
Go down there. Boy. It's like, just do your niche thing in your hometown, but I just can't believe it worked out, and it's one of those things where right, it is, there is room to go and make that happen, to have your ridiculous idea bear that kind of fruit. I think it's some kind of poetic justice.
Such a well-rounded show, not only in its production, but the writing, the animation, and listen to how much fun you two have just being a part of it. I mean, that translates onto the screen. It has to, right?
Yeah.
Oh, my God, yes. Yeah, and because Nils is Tigtone, and I mean that in the best way, Nils, you're just... because
I'm not violently psychotic, but or psychotically violent. But I think I'm a pretty nice guy, But
when you step into him, though, it's just you are him. Because you become him, and it's fabulous. I just
seen
love
what
it.
You're talking about in those clips I was talking about earlier when Nils was doing the sessions from season 1, just arching the back, getting his fists clenched up in the air, really, getting into
no real
it.
effort. It's just
he was Tigtone,
Right. No, physically have to be completely engaged. Once because there's always those reads, and I do a bunch, and then there's like, okay, let's get a 10, let's get a Tigtone 10 on this one. That's the last word for every line. Just for safety, let's get this one at a Tigtone 10. And that means full screaming, and always my arms are gesticulating wildly, and I have to remember to not whap the microphone, and so that's the method acting. It ends up being part of it.
It's such a fun show, and again, I have to encourage the listeners to check it out. Sunday nights on Adult Swim at midnight, and again, the season finale of season 2 coming up October 11th. Set the DVRs. Debbie, Nils, thank you guys so much for being here. But before we cut you guys loose, I want to direct people toward your contact. Debbie, I know you have DebiDerryberry.com, and you also mentioned your book being on Amazon. Is there anywhere else people should be checking you out?
Well, let me spell it just for those. It's DEBI, 4 letters, DEBI, DERRY, and I'd love for them to see my TikTok, which I have I don't know how I got 14 million views and 800,000 followers, but
wow,
I'm having so much fun with TikTok, if it's still in existence by the time this airs. And my Instagram, I'd love, it's just at Debi Derryberry, and my Twitter's at Debi Derryberry, and my website, DebiDerryberry.com. So thank you for giving me this opportunity to spew and tell you all about how I love Helpy and be with Nils.
No, it's been our pleasure. And Nils, thank you just as much. And where can people be checking you out, man?
Well, let's see. My two bands that I currently have going, the Free Salamander exhibit has a site and socials, and then my Fawn Fables. And so those are my two main projects that I'm doing right now. Okay. And that's Faun Fables, and that's both of those I play various instruments and sing. Although they're very different styles of music in some ways.
Yeah, I heard that. Definitely did. Some of it was a lot faster, more upbeat, but it seemed like Fawn Fables. Maybe not so much acoustic driven, but I guess I wouldn't know.
It is partly acoustic folk, original folk and sort of chamber music driven stuff. And then the Free Salamander exhibit is definitely rock and with the elements of metal and prog and chamber music, which sneaks into all my projects. So that's one of my backgrounds is coming out of classical music.
A little bit of something for everybody, though, it seems like.
Yeah.
Very good. All right. Well, we'll be directing people to both your guys' websites and social media posts. But thanks so much for being here. And Jack, what do we have on the website, sir?
Go to cannedairpodcast.com, check out show highlights, guest info, listen to the show, follow us on all our social media, become a patron, buy some merch, see some YouTube videos, and if you'd like to be a guest and promote your work, send us an email on our contacts page.
And once again, we're on Twitter at CannedAirPod and Instagram at canned_air. And again, patreon.com/CannedAirPod. $5 a month gets you access to the Canned Air Patreon pod. Show you can only get there, and a bunch of other merch and cool stuff on there. That's it. All right, I think that's going to do it for this week. So until next time, I am Jeremy Colley.
I'm Jack Doherty.
Thanks so much for listening, everyone, and always remember to be excellent to each other.
On fire. I need to get help.
Do it from outside.
Blowtorch.
Whenever there's a fire in your house, be sure to get outside immediately. And once outside, get on CannedAirPodcast.com.
Well, thanks for the tip, Blowtorch, but just one question. What about the fire?
And knowing is half the battle.
G.I. Joe!
Hardenbrook is not here tonight.
Yeah.
He had a party to go to.
He's got those children.
God, bastard.
Yeah,
That
exactly.
bastard. That bastard.
This has been a Canned Air production.